Hey everybody, welcome back to Six Things with Mike Crane. We are sitting here with Hunter again, and we're going to talk about common questions for first-time home buyers.
Love it.
First question is probably a good one for you, Hunter. How much can I afford when we're looking at buying a house and qualifying people? Will you explain to everybody how you qualify people and establish how much they can afford?
Yeah, so this is a term that we call in the lending world DTI, known for debt to income. And this is a big portion of when you're asking about loan approval, how much you can afford. And a little bit, there's other things that goes into it, like credit score and what loan program you're on, but debt to income is the biggest thing. And there's two things we look at for debt to income. We look at what your housing payment is compared to how much you make. And then the second thing we look at is what your housing payment plus all other debts go into how much you make. They're kind of the two numbers we look at and for debt to income. And so for the housing payment or the proposed mortgage payment, that is principal, interest, homeowners insurance, property taxes, and if you have mortgage insurance in some way, shape, or form, that's a part of it too. So that is what we call PITI. And so that's your housing payment. And then all other debts, this is like when we pull your credit. This could be credit cards, auto loans, student loans, installment loans. If you have any child support, anything like that, that goes against what you can qualify for. So let's take, for example, somebody has a $500 a month car payment. Mm-hmm. That is going to lower your mortgage approval by close to $100,000.
Ouch. That's a big amount.
A big amount.
Yeah.
And so you can see how easily and quickly debt plays into how much we can qualify you for. And so really you have kind of two options when looking at how much you can qualify for, either pay off, like lower what your debt load is, or increase income.
Okay.
And you can do that in a million ways.
Yeah, 100 million.
Yeah.
So inspection is a contingency that is in your paperwork. Unless you are a contractor, you should not be waiving this. Just personal opinion. Everybody, you can do what you want. What happens is an inspector will come out and look at the property and go over everything. I mean, from major things like a leaking roof to little tiny itty bitty things that'll be all very detailed in this very detailed report. And then that helps you when you come into negotiation, what issues might be with the house, so you can negotiate them either getting fixed or a lower price point, or, all that kind of stuff. And that can be accepted or rejected by the sellers, but that is essentially what an inspection is. An appraisal is when a licensed appraiser comes out and determines the value of the home. That is another contingency in the paperwork. And they essentially just come out and take a look, view your home in different ways, and then determine the value of the home. Next is, how much down payment do I need? I think that's probably a good one for you. A lot of people think they need 20%. Why don't you go over a little bit of what they need for different loan programs for down payment?
Yeah, so FHA is minimum 3.5% down.
Okay.
Conventional, if you're a first-time home buyer, which means you haven't bought a home in the last 3 years, you can get away with as little as 3% down. USDA, great loan program, is 0% down, and that's for like rural development.
Yep.
And then VA, if you're a veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran.
Thank you for your service.
Yep, thank you for your service. 0% down. Love VA loans.
Yep, VA loans are the shit.
Yep. And then also, because the most common loan programs are conventional and FHA. That's what I'd say most people use. And there are, through the state, whether you're in Washington, Idaho, Oregon, the states have down payment assistance programs that if you don't have the funds needed to meet those minimum requirements, the state steps in, loans you the money for those down payments, and then you can purchase a home with little to nothing out of pocket. So even though conventional is 3% and FHA is 3.5% down, you can still get in a home and meet those requirements by using the state's programs.
I love it.
Yep.
I think it's a big deal. A lot of people don't know about all these different programs that are out there to help you.
There's endless amounts.
Oh yeah, so many, and it makes it so much easier to get into a home.
Yep.
Next question: what is PMI? I think I'm going to take this one and correct me if I'm...
Take a stab at it.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. PMI is private mortgage insurance, and essentially, if you are getting a loan from a lender and you are don't have the 20% to put down, your loan to value LTV ratio is over 80%, then the lender makes you get mortgage insurance, and that just gets tacked on to your loan every month you're paying for it. And then once you get to 80%, it cuts off and you stop paying for that. And that just explain the reasoning behind it. I was going to take a stab at it, but you're going to be so much better at explaining it than I am.
Yeah, so for conventional loans, like Mike was saying, is if you do not put 20% down, you're going to have mortgage insurance in some way, shape, or form on your loan. And what the reason for that is because it is to insure the lender in case of default.
Yep.
Because if you put 20% down on a conventional loan, you're self-insuring. That just means that you're more than likely not gonna walk away from the home and let it go to foreclosure because you have 20% tied up in the house. Like on $400,000, that's $80,000.
Yep.
So
exactly.
you're just self-insuring it. I'm not gonna walk away from that money.
Yeah, it's essentially covering the lender's ass and making sure they're not going to take a hit.
Right. And then on the government loans, those are all insured by the government. FHA's Federal Housing Administration, VA, same thing, USDA, same thing.
Perfect.
Yep.
And the next question, I think our final question here is, what are closing costs? Now, closing costs are the costs related to the transfer of the property at the end of the transaction. Generally, it's taxes and fees and all that kind of stuff, wire transfer fees. Last but not least, excise tax. Thank you, state. And that's a lot of those recording costs and all that kind of stuff. You end up with closing costs at the end of the transaction. So typically, that's part of what seller paid closing costs help with when you're a first-time home buyer, is I try to get 3% seller paid closing costs. That takes closing costs away from the buyer, and the seller uses their equity to help close that process. Do you think I said that pretty well?
That was great. Yeah, love it.